Ladies and gentlemen, filmmakers and moviegoers alike, welcome. It's time for Critic the Casual. I'm your host, Srekcuf5. Joining me, as always, is the amazing Dorkydev. Hi, Dev. How are you?
Steven, I haven't slept yet.
when was the last time you slept? Like last night?
When? Well, no. No, I just said I haven't slept yet.
Oh, I know. Sometimes the nights blend together for me. You know, everything's the same. So, guess technically it was 2 nights ago. Was your last sleep?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. Well,
Last
guess
time
not
I
good.
woke up was about noon yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm about to hit the 24-hour mark.
Okay. And it's all because of one of the movies we watched.
Yeah, because it spiked my fucking anxiety.
I mean, part of me does feel bad. Part of me is also kind of happy, though, because that's like, yay, we finally had a successful, scary movie. Even though it wasn't technically, I guess, the right kind of scary, but still.
Steven, I haven't slept.
Then we'll get through this. We'll get it done. And then you could take a nap before work.
God, I hope so. God, I fucking hope so.
Yeah, let's get in here. Let's start talking about this week, which, so far, I have called this week Nick Gone Cagey. Because, you know, I'm so clever. And these are Nick Cage horror films. So we're talking about Mom and Dad, and then we're going to go to Color Out of Space, and then we'll wrap everything up nice and neat, like. Yeah. Yay. All right. Let's get in here. Let's start talking about our first movie, which is Mom and Dad.
Which released on March 9th, 2008 in the United Kingdom. It was a budget of $7 million and worldwide it says 165,000 on IMDb. But I'll be honest, I don't have the time to go look at a box office mojo.
I was going to say, that if it's all that movie made, wow, was that a flop.
I mean, not gonna lie, this movie's very disjointed.
Yeah. Let's see. Mom and Dad 2017. Box office mojo.
See, ladies and gentlemen, this is the trick.
No, yeah. No.
You say that you're not gonna do a thing, because then your co-host instinctively goes, now I'm curious. Now I have to look into it.
No, I have the answer here too. Pretty interesting.
It's the exact thing that it says?
Yeah. And they have it broken down. The United Kingdom is the country that gave this the most money with $65,229.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
But I mean, you see the subject matter and it kind of makes sense, right? Like they took so Mom and Dad, name of the movie of course, a teenage girl and her younger brother must survive being attacked by their parents, which see, this was like my filler movie this week. I just grabbed randomly from a list of Nick Cage horror films. And I am both I'm simultaneously disappointed and not at the same time.
Oh, we got some Cage at his cagiest, which is always good.
Yeah, we
Like,
got to see some great Nick Cage moments, that's for fucking sure.
but
But
if you were just looking for Cage at his cagiest, this is one of those movies.
and it has what I thought was going to be a semi-interesting premise, which is like parents attacking their own children, which is like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Ah, Steven, see, your first mistake was you don't watch trailers.
No, I don't. But it was like, that's an interesting premise, I guess.
I'll be honest.
Uh-huh.
Maybe start watching a trailer for movies.
No, it's fine. Hey, this movie to me was a beautiful train wreck. You know, Like,
Oh, I can agree with that. It's a beautiful train wreck. I'm not arguing with you on that point. I'm just saying that, like, sometimes, this thing called marketing departments
huh?
word things in a way that make things sound more interesting and more in depth than they might actually be, Steven.
Yeah, I hear you.
And sometimes watching a trailer lets you know whether or not the marketing team's little phrase that they use is utter bullshit or not. Because I had seen trailers for this movie back in 2017, 2018.
2017.
So I knew what we were getting into in the sense of I saw the trailers and went, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Love Nick Cage, but I don't know what this movie's gonna be like. And then it disappeared from the cultural zeitgeist as soon as it entered.
Uh-huh. Literally. It didn't even like have an opening weekend.
No. So again, maybe a trailer.
See, I think the problem lies 100% with the director, whose name is Brian Taylor. Because literally, like, the movies popped up and it was like, okay, this movie is brought to you by the guy who created Crank and Gamer and Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Like, oh, listen to that. Like, listen to all of those amazing movies there. Oh, it was a thing. Gotta say the least. Though I'm it was dumb. It was
Uh-huh.
disjointed. It um it was a watered down zombie movie, that's for sure. And not even in a good way. Like it says on the trailer that it's like Home Alone on bath salts, but I don't get that at all. Um I it just this movie was like you said disjointed. I thought it was funny at times for sure. The comedy though I felt like was unintentional. Like apparently this is supposed to be a black comedy, kind of like some Sam Raimi's earlier movies. But like it was funny, yes. It had gore in it, yes. But I wouldn't consider this a black comedy. It honestly felt like I was watching Crank again, which is what it said, basically said at the very beginning of the movie was from the director that brought you Crank, and I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Now I know what I've gotten myself into.
Yeah, for me, having seen trailers,
Uh huh.
um, kind of knew what we were getting into, and it was exactly what I expected.
I like going into these blind. There's some pretty fun moments when you
Not
don't know what the
arguing with
hell's gonna
that.
happen. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I don't know that everything is gonna happen, and we can probably agree on some of the things that we didn't know were coming. But all I'm saying is that like this didn't really even meet the bar that I had,
Mm-hmm.
which was low. So there's that. Like, I don't know. There wasn't a lot to the premise.
It could have been better. It definitely could. Like I just it, the big problem is a lot of the tension from the earlier parts of this movie are non-existent because it's about our main characters, experiencing the drama of the parents going mad in the beginning, but because none of the parents are our main characters' parents, none of the tension really matters, which makes the first like 30 minutes of the movie, I mean, informative and a good, I guess, exposition to not so good of a movie. But then the next hour really isn't worth the build up. Slow build up.
Yeah.
Because it literally had the same origin of like a zombie movie where it's like there's this lone case of this woman who did this thing. And now slowly we're seeing signs of more and more things about to go wrong. My
Yep.
gird.
No, 100%. It's a zombie movie without the zombies.
Hmm.
Um, so like that is what I saw in the trailers, and that is what this movie delivered. It did not beat expectations. It did not. It did the one thing it was required to do. Let Nick Cage have some Nick Cage moments. Like legitimately, that is the one ask that I had for this movie, and it delivered that.
Hmm.
Um, so it passes that bar at least. Outside of that though, like I, was like, man, uh, if we ever, do a list of Nick Cage movies, mostly, you want to know how mostly I'm gonna rate that list if we ever do that?
Old ones up top, new ones on bottom.
No, memorableness.
Oh, okay.
'Cause, like, a Nick Cage movie has to be memorable to be good, right?
Sure.
Um, and not necessarily like good, but like memorable. You know what I mean? Like it's got to stick in your brain because, like, let's be real, movies like Face Off, um, and Con Air and The Rock all stick in your head a little bit better than, I don't know, The Wizard Student. Sorry, The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
This isn't about
Um,
you there, Dev.
Man, I am running on no sleep, sir. I am allowed to have some slip ups today, given that we were talking about a person who I play a parody of in an RP server, and it's going to be tough for my brain to separate the two for a moment.
Mhm.
Um, as I have not slept.
Excuse. I mean, sure, it's an excuse.
I have not slept since the last time I slept after being him.
You woke up and it's just like, I'm Ricky Cage, baby.
Lage, get it right.
No, you're Ricky Cage. You're blending the worlds together.
No, ew. We're not doing that. I'm not blending worlds. No, yeah, I mean, like you're gonna remember, like a Nick Cage movie has to be memorable. That's his big thing, and like this one's not going to be outside of, like a couple things maybe. So it's there. It's
This movie's here. It was stupid. It had made a couple laughs, at best.
at best.
Hmm.
That's a good way of putting it.
I guess sure you could say it's unmemorable, but there are parts of this movie I'm going to remember. Though I think my biggest complaint ultimately is how the flashback sequences are edited into this movie, where it's right in the middle of an action segment, so it completely cuts all like momentum that's going on. Just for it's like, oh my goodness, something amazing's about to happen, and oh, hang on, now we have to have a sentimental moment about why this thing is amazing. All right, now back to the amazingness. Let's go. I
I
just,
mean, yeah, I agree fully, and that's why for me it's not gonna be memorable because my brain's trying to remember what order things happen in, and it doesn't make any sense. Um, because it's just like it's very disjointed in what it does.
mm.
So, there is that.
And then at the end, there's the uh, the Deus Ex Machina that shows up and saves the day essentially because it wasn't for
I know
uh
what you're talking about.
exactly yeah the thing everything would have been fucked. But it was also like a fun little twist at the same like it wasn't a twist, not really. Like you can see it coming a mile away. But
Yeah.
it was fun that they actually followed through with it. But at the same time, I felt like the timing was wrong. Like if it was a different part of the movie, I might have liked it better because then our main characters have a little more agency. Not right.
Yeah, potentially.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of know, but still, it was. This movie was silly and stupid all at the same time.
I don't know if it's worth a rent it rating.
Oh yeah, I mean, I how did you end up watching this movie, by the way?
Amazon Prime.
Okay, you ended up doing like the free
No,
Oh,
just
okay.
rented it. There's 3. I'm not gonna listen. I'm not gonna set all that stuff up on my parental advisor's account and forget it
Okay.
on there. All right,
I mean, okay.
because I still have a Peacock that I keep forgetting to fucking turn off. You know?
I mean, I usually just, as soon as the movie's done, I go and cancel the subscription.
I don't remember to do that sometimes because my brain doesn't work that way. Because like as soon as the movie is done, my brain goes, okay, on to next thing I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
which that day was streaming. So, you know,
Streaming's more important than.
in this case, yeah, because it wasn't that good of a movie.
Either way, I get it. I don't mind. This one was.
I want to say I'm shocked you enjoyed it as much as you seem to have enjoyed it.
Like, I did and I didn't. It's both. It's really bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, but you're such a fucking horror schmuck that like
But it wasn't even
you
really
can you can
horror.
watch. Listen, you could watch the worst horror movie, and you'll sit there being like, but there were really good parts that I really just quite enjoyed.
Uh,
Well, I'm over here like pointing out like genuinely like pretty good movies, and you're sitting here being like, well, they really could have done all of this better. You
uh-huh.
have nothing when it's a bad horror movie,
It's
you almost have nothing bad to say about it. You are the most passive person to a bad horror movie. And I fucking hate you for it.
I'm sorry.
I hate you for it because it's just you go into this such passive, like hippie ass vibe towards it. While any other movie could show up in front of you, a fucking goddamn like cult classic or like one of the arguably the greatest movies I've ever made from by someone, and you'll sit there and nitpick it to death.
I
But
nitpick
this
all the
movie,
movies I
you're
watch, man.
do you have a this movie shows up in front of you, you're like, oh, you know what? I kind of enjoyed this and this. You talk about more positives with these kind of movies, and I never get it. And I know I bring it up every time we get to this point, but it fucking baffles me. Okay,
I
because
can't
this
help
is
it.
genuinely a bad movie, and like we've watched other genuinely bad movies, and you've been able to rip them apart.
Uh-huh.
But like when it comes to the horror genre, you just enter this just zen state, and I hate you for it because you can't seem to figure out how to do that for any other goddamn genre.
I don't know either. I can't explain it. It's just something
It
about
pisses me
watching
off.
people die makes me feel good on the inside.
I don't know what is fucking wrong with you. It pisses me off because we can watch genuinely great movies, and I'll be like, wow, Steven's probably going to really enjoy this. And then I'll come into it and be like, wow, Steven hated this. Okay, what?
And
And
then
then
I
this
give
one
it
where
an
I'm
8 out
like,
of 10.
yeah, okay, yes. And that, that happens, yes. But, and I know you're not going to give this one a huge score or
No.
anything like that. I'm just, like, you sometimes you complain about me not having enough to say about a movie. And then we have a genre that you should have more to say about
Mhm.
and be able to critique more. And then you become this passive creature towards it where maybe I'm not going to have as much to say because it's not my genre of choice. And you would be perfect for talking about it. But then you're over here like, oh, it's all right. It does what it needs to do.
Yeah. I mean, like, yes, I am a lot softer to horror movies, sure, because it's my favorite genre or whatever. But I also, at the same time, I'm not considering this a horror movie at all. There was nothing horror or scary or anything to me in this movie. It was just stupid. Like,
Yes.
like to me, this is your Fast and Furious. Like, this was so fucking stupid that I was like, I'm kind of enjoying myself. Like, I'm not gonna give it a good score because it was bad. It was bad. The only enjoyable part about it would probably be Nick Cage and Selma Blair. They were, I thought, fun with their cooperation with each other and how they acted off of each other. But beyond that, it's just like you said, pretty much a disjointed mess where the beginning of the movie is a zombie movie, the second half is a like survival film for your parents, and then it's just like it feels like it's trying to tell us a moral or a message or something, and I don't get it. I don't understand what it is at all. Am I gonna excuse the movie for that? No. Am I still gonna say I had fun watching it? Yeah.
Okay, by me saying it's a horror genre, I know it's not like a classic horror movie, but like it's in that genre
Yeah, it
of
it
film
says
house.
comedy and horror and thriller on here.
So like, I'm sorry if it does fall into that wheelhouse as much as you may not think it does. Thus, why I will say that you were treating it, you were treating it softer.
Mhm.
After I did rile you up, maybe a little bit, under your skin because I
There's
got
some
under there.
words, yeah.
Yeah, you might have. I appreciate you digging into that a little bit more.
You happy?
Um, yes, I am. That has made me happier with this outcome. Because like, I'm sorry. I can't stand idly by, while you destroy everything I love, and then we come across this, and you can just sit there and be passive towards
Yeah,
it.
it's fine.
Um,
It's okay movie.
because I will not allow that.
It's a
I'm
real
sorry.
good thing. Beams don't just explode on contact. Channeling my
What?
inner Krillin. Sorry.
Why that quote? What?
I don't know. Just where my ADHD mind went. I'm sorry.
And you ask how I can forget about fucking like a subscription service.
I mean, yes and no. And yes, I get it. I had those problems, and I've worked around them. I mean, not cleanly. I've got, let's see, hang on. 1 post-it note, 2, 3,
Yeah, I
4,
work cleanly
5,
about it.
6,
I
7.
just don't.
I've
I
got
just find.
I've got
I
notes
find
everywhere.
I'd rather make a one-time payment than forget about it. We both have our system, Don't criticize mine.
Mhm. I also got in the background here, you guys probably can't see it, even if I were to move the green screen. Like, I've got a board with all the bills and all the things that I have to do. So, it helps.
Fair.
But either way, this movie
Mm-hmm. It exists.
exists.
Up to you if you want to watch it.
Yeah. If you liked
I'm not-
Crank, I think you'd love this movie.
Probably not.
Yeah. Too much gore?
No. Did you watch Cranked?
Yeah. With
Is there
Jason.
more gore in Cranked?
Maybe. I don't know. I know there's a
Well,
lot.
since I've watched it.
I
I
don't.
swear there was more gore in Cranked.
There might be. I mean, it is trying to be like the edgiest edgelord movie that ever existed.
Yeah.
So there might be more gore in that movie. Maybe.
My thing about Cranked is it's just nonstop. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well,
literally.
this one literally stops during the action. The parts when it shouldn't stop, to give you a little like snippet and be like, see, this dad and son, they had a bonding moment a few weeks back about some of the a mistake the child had made, and how the father was being forgiving, um but how he's also slightly on edge about things, and really should be seeing a therapist. Men will literally destroy their pool table before seeing a therapist.
The pool table that he just bought.
Yes, and yes, I'm using that meme. I'm allowed to, as yeah.
Totally fine.
Yep. So yeah, yeah, if you liked Crank, I don't even know if you'd like this. So I'll counter Steven with that.
Sure, fine.
Sorry, just from what I remember of Crank, it's not this.
I feel like they're pretty similar from what I remember of Cranked.
I feel like we
Maybe this
watched
one's slower, but the ridiculousness is about the same.
dude, Crank has literally a battery put to his heart.
And like he's clamped his nipples, and at one point he's having sex with a random woman, and another point he's jumping off a building. Like, I get
These movies are very different.
but they have the same like editing style and feel to me. Like a lot of it,
Okay,
even the energy
that
of
makes
the
more sense.
Okay. Like it all felt the same to me. I know that they might look different, and one's like Crank going, "Let's fucking go, let's go" the whole time, nonstop till the very end. But like they just feel like very similar movies, even if the premise is different.
Well, I'm saying like my thought like yes, they are edited similarly, but like what I'm trying to say is that like Crank has a lot more going on in it to keep you engaged. Which is saying a lot about how little there is to engage in this movie than it is saying about Crank. Because Crank doesn't have a lot to engage in.
No, see, I feel like that statement is a little double-sided there. Because that could be misconstrued to be like, oh, Crank has a lot more like depth in it.
No,
it's literally just ADHD on like speed, literally cranked up to 11. That's what Crank is, and I don't think that's a good movie. Like, sure, there's more stuff in it.
I'm not arguing it's a good movie, but I would rather watch Cranked than this.
I would not,
because Cranked has more entertaining stuff happening in it.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree on that point.
Because, like, I'm sorry. There's a good portion of this movie that is just flashbacks and waiting for an explosion.
Because they all love each other. So much that they want to strangle them. That's how much I love you, Dad.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
I just, I didn't have a lot to latch on to because none of the characters are that interesting outside of really like the two parents being kind of batshit insane during the movie, which is entertaining. And I'm not saying it's not entertaining in its own way. I'm just saying that like I don't think it's a good comparison to compare it to Crank just because of editing style, because Crank has more going on in its, honestly, in its, and this sounds really dumb given how I'm going to word this, and this isn't me giving it more credit than it actually needs, but Crank has more going on for it from a narrative perspective. And I know that sounds really dumb because it's fucking Cranked. And I know it's really dumb to say that. But, like, I don't know. Essentially a race against the clock where you have to just keep your like, energy going in order to keep your heart going adds, some elements to it. While this one just kind of waits for things to happen. And then when things are happening, it stops the things from happening to give you a flashback.
I mean, I don't disagree with that part there. Like I said, that was probably my least favorite thing about this movie, how it would cut the action. But like, it's just, I don't want to focus on this and like comparing Crank to this movie.
Especially given that neither of us have probably watched Crank in maybe a decade.
Yeah, and especially like every like part of me just wants to be like, I don't agree, fuck you, I don't agree, but at the same time I'm like, that's not the point for today.
The point is we're gonna be watching Crank here soon due to the fact that this discussion will be continued at some point.
Yeah, we'll do Crank and Crank 2.
Fuck it, why not? Bet.
I'll got an open week at the end of next month.
Fuck it, let's do it. I will prove a point. I know we were planning like two different options there. Fuck it, let's do Crank and prove a point, huh?
Why not?
Fuck it.
Let's watch that really shitty couple of movies.
Oh yeah, I'm not arguing that they're not.
Yeah, no,
shitty.
yeah, it's just gonna be. Whew, it's gonna be fun.
I am just saying, if I'm watching a shitty movie, I'd rather watch Cranked.
I get you. It's just what things that we look for different in movies. The reason why I don't like, well, the part of the reason why I don't like Crank as much is the fact that the whole gimmick is driven on an artificially created like stress trigger. Like at random points, there's no consistency in when his heart's gonna stop working. And I understand that it's the adrenaline of the situation is different from each situation and whatnot, but still, it's just like just to amp up the tension again. It's like, my heart's stopping, gotta fucking fuck again. And then it just jumps to the next thing, where then that next thing lasts for maybe 15 minutes, and it's like, my heart's stopping, and I gotta jump immediately to the next thing. It's
okay. One of my things that I don't like about this movie is this artificially created thing that we know is the trigger for causing these things that happens at completely random points throughout the movie and has no explanation why it's happening, and thus triggering all the events of the movie. It has no rhyme or reason or explanation and just happens.
But that doesn't feel the same to me.
I know it doesn't feel the same to you,
because
but if we are going to have this conversation,
I know you're using my words and everything to try and prove your point, but like,
I know, I'm just saying that, like, for me, that is one of my problems with this movie.
Yeah,
because again, there's this thing that happens at completely random points with no explanation as to why or how or what it is, what's doing it, nothing. No explanation. It just happens.
And I feel like that's part of the point of the horror of this movie. It's the unknown.
I thought it wasn't a horror movie, Steven.
It's not. It doesn't feel like it, but I feel like that's part of the point of it trying to be a horror movie.
I'll agree with you there.
Like, that's why I think this is in the horror and not like a fantasy movie, because they didn't want to explain how it works, because that's not the point. The point is that it works.
Yeah, okay. But usually with a horror movie, we at least have some reasoning to why a thing has happened, if that makes sense. Like,
I can't wait to give this movie the same score. Like,
oh no, 100%. And you know what? These are my favorite conversations we have, where we're going to end up giving this thing maybe a point difference score, right? It's at most it's going to be a point difference. That is my prediction on this. But it's a good conversation, okay?
Yeah, it's a great conversation. It's just, it's gonna be like, it's slowly gonna escalate. We're gonna start yelling at each other, and we
haven't had a good yelling in a while.
And then we're not even gonna be at the second movie yet, and it's gonna be like, all right, I'm so mad. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. God damn it! We had the same opinion after all. It's not a 5 out of 5, but still.
Listen, it's not. Listen, it's also not the same opinion. We have the same score, but we got there differently. So
got to show your work in this class.
Yeah, pretty much. Again, so like my big thing about it is just like if this is a horror movie, there is usually like a reasoning for why events are happening in it. Right? Like there's usually some form of like reason for it to trigger, right? Even slashers, for the most part, have this concept down. Michael Myers is usually on a path to do something. Jason comes out on Friday the 13th. Freddy starts getting into people's dreams. This thing just happens, like, we see it the first time it happens in the kitchen. It's the first time we see it happen.
With the housemaid, or?
Yes. Because we know it happened at the beginning, but we didn't see or hear it happen.
Yeah, it was news position, which there's a lot of in this movie.
Yes, consistently. The worst way to get your information in a movie. Why we still do this, I don't know. Hi, 2005 called. It wants its news position back.
I That's kind of what this movie feels like. Early 2000s era film.
Yeah, 100%. I won't argue with you there. I don't know, man. This isn't it. This isn't it.
Well, all right then, Dev. I'll give you your popcorn kernels.
All right.
You got 10 of them.
Could give it a good old 4.
One of these days, I'm gonna fuck with you and be like, "All right, here's your popcorn kernels. You got 8.5."
Still gonna give it a 10 on that week.
Yeah. So you're giving it? You said a 4. Sorry.
Yeah, 4.
I was gonna do 4.5. Half a point difference. Yeah.
Predictable.
All right, lemon grab. Or is it lemongrass?
I don't fucking remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that show in forever. All right. Are we ready for movie number 2?
Yeah, I guess.
Let's get in there then. I don't know. It's fine. We're in movie number 2, which is Color Out of Space.
Which released on February 25th, 2020 with a budget of $6 million, gross US $765,000, and $1 million worldwide. I hated every second of this movie.
Like for the good reasons
hold on,
or bad?
let me get to my point.
Okay, sorry.
And then I will let you talk because I know you have a lot to say on this movie.
Go ahead.
I hated this movie, every second of it. Yes, for what it was intended for. But this is the reason I didn't sleep last night, because this movie literally triggered my goddamn anxiety. So I was laying in bed for 4 hours, just closing my eyes, trying to sleep. And I'm trying to change my mindset on nights where like that kind of happens, where I just like I remind myself that like, hey, it's still technically rest.
Mm-hmm.
You're still helping your body and stuff like that. And it actually does help you, it does count as rest and stuff like that, which is good for you. But didn't help that the entire time though, because my anxiety spiked from this goddamn movie, my brain was moving 1,000 miles an hour. And I've literally played out so many scenarios in those 4 hours, from my personal streaming stuff to home to like seeing family to this very podcast
Mm-hmm.
and future ones. Next week's podcast for matter of fact, where we maybe talk about Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. Like I have all of that kind of like, I had that much brain going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, this movie does exactly what it wants to do. And if you're looking for that kind of movie of a, HP Lovecraftian horror, it does a good job of that, honestly. Is this my kind of horror movie? No. Personal opinion, I will never watch this movie again. Because I just can't. I don't know if I could go through it again. Unless I literally had other people around me. Because for some reason, this just triggered a fucking fight or flight moment in my goddamn brain, where my brain went into flight mode and I was just terrified the entire time. And I didn't quite enjoy that very much.
Mm-hmm.
So unless I'm watching with other people, I don't think I'm going to watch this again. Does that mean it's a bad movie? No, it does exactly what it sets out for. And in all honesty, it is arguably the first horror movie I think we've watched that has genuinely scared me. Which is a rarity, as you can ask Steven. We have watched horror movies before and they have put me to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
From how predictable and boring it is. So when I say that like this movie made me literally sit in my chair, and at a certain point towards the tail end where I just wanted this movie to end, I was like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to move.
I spent most of the movie like this, like just, what the fuck is happening?
So it does exactly what it sets out to do very well. Is there things that I could critique about it? Probably, but in all honesty, I don't want to recall it. Um, as my brain has begun repressing the shit that I went through with this. Because genuinely, I don't remember a different time in my life where I've watched a horror movie and felt this way since I was a child.
I mean, I get that genuine sense of fear. I think that's part of the reason why I enjoy horror movies, though. It kind of reminds me of a time where things were simpler, so the most ridiculous things scared me. You know.
This felt like I was playing a horror game.
Okay.
And if you guys have watched me play any scary game,
My
you can ask
favorite.
Steven that I had genuinely those kind of reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Like those genuine fear moments. And I don't know why it triggered that. I wasn't sleep deprived. I was honestly fairly coherent at the start. You can ask Steven, like we were having like very
Eh?
good conversations. And then there came a certain point where my brain went into anxiety and overload mode. And I went, I can't do this. I'm going to sit through the rest of this movie, but how is there still 30 minutes left? Um,
Do you,
so
by chance, know what it was exactly that like started?
I don't know when it started. I mean, a lot of it does go down to the fact that like the sound of this movie is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's constantly it's like fucking um fuck. Um Jordan Peele movie. Get Out. Where like sound editing is so key to that movie to putting you into a spot where your brain kind of is in that mindset. This movie does that.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're kind of like fuck this the sound design of this movie is triggering a like weird anxiety portion of your brain. Um so yeah, I don't know. It does what it sets out to do pretty damn well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I liked this movie. I really did. I don't know what like. There's a lot I could say about. I don't want to go too much into it for Dev's sake here. I'll try to be nice about it.
No, you could go into detail and stuff like that. I'll be fine.
Okay.
I was just saying that like my brain has just repressed parts of this um overnight um while trying to sleep.
Mhm.
I still see the bug.
I mean, the bug wasn't even the worst part about this. I feel.
No, it wasn't.
But yeah, like that was one of my. I loved that about this movie. Like the color purple that they used was a great, like pinkish purple shade that they had. That was awesome, and I loved how it kept just randomly appearing. And as the movie progressed, you could see it more and more, and like everything, it looked to me beautiful. I loved the scenery that they created. I loved the fungusy ambiance that was almost in the air. Um, Sound design was amazing as because the whole like it was always present the entire movie. There was the heart beating drums that was there pretty much every single scene when things started to get anxious, and then there was the whistle that was just present always, no matter where you were or what you were doing. The whistle was always there.
And then when there was silence, it was so unsettling.
And it just it was great. The sound design was amazing. Um, the stuff that happens with the family, I thought, depending on who it was really fascinating. Like the mom and brother stuff was probably my favorite part of the movie because it's also like my least favorite part of the movie. Um, the stuff with Nick Cage, I thought he was actually, believe it or not, my least favorite part of this movie. Just because he was great. He still got to be Nick Cage, but the level of Nick Cage I think was a little too much, at least at the moments that we saw. Like he was just too much
I could
Nicky.
understand that being a complaint. Um, I mean, you know me, I'm gonna just say I loved it because I'm a Nick Cage fan.
Yeah.
But I understand your critique of that, and I can see that as being a critique.
Especially
So
too, because like with Nick Cage himself, we don't get to see the thing that's happening to him. It's kind of strange because we get to see his arms once, and then the rest of it's all like him going crazy. And but we know his entire body, like you can see it on his neck and his hands and his arms, but we don't get to see what the thing is that's happening to him, which I thought was a little disappointing. And then there's the daughter who made some sense but no sense at the same time.
I mean, it is Lovecraftian.
Yeah. And then the random bystander who was there. And like this movie, I had complaints about it last week where my problem with Firestarter was the characters don't have any agency. Like they're not the ones that are progressing the story forward. And that's also what happens in this movie, but it's approached much better, you know, where it's not like a group of people are swarming in and they're the reason why they have to keep moving, because it's like, oh no, if I don't move, they're gonna catch up to me. No, it's just
This movie's point is that you don't have agency.
exactly. It's the whole fact that it like that's the whole part about Lovecraftian horror is that our world, the world that we live in, is the only world where chaos doesn't rule. And so everything outside of our reality, our world, is chaotic and crazy and unknown and unfathomable. And it kind of does that in this movie. It doesn't, it doesn't. The unfathomable, like you don't know what's happening kind of moments, I thought were interesting, where you get to see like the video effects and the green or the purple blurs and the like the waves and the translucency. Oh, I think that's what it was. The first time you got to, when
Yeah, you're right. It was the first translucent thing, and I was like, dude, like this is triggering like young dev Predator
mhm,
vibes. Um, and Predator's a fucking fantastic. The first Predator is fantastic at creating like horror
mhm,
because like, sure, nowadays it's like you're like, oh yeah, obviously I can kind of make that out really well. At the time, dude, on grainy ass TVs and
mhm.
shit, you saw it there and you went, the fuck is that? The fuck? What are we looking at there, dude? Dudes, you got to get out of there. That's not good.
Yeah.
And
Nah,
this movie did that
yeah.
at one point, and I went, I don't like that because I can't see that very well. That's giving me some Predator vibes. The good Predator, not the Predator. Um, the first movie that started that joke.
uh, Terrible joke, but I love it. But still, yeah, it that there was the translucency stuff, and it all just to me it worked. But I feel like the more body horror that we got was probably the best part of this movie, or with the animals and the Cedra that the Excedra that we got. Like it was grotesque, and the fact that we didn't get to see it for at first, so your own mind gets to create its the worst case scenario, and then it's like you get to see it and it's like, oh god, it's worse than what I actually thought it was going to be.
Which is how you do that kind of shit, because like it needs you need to go to your furthest point of your imagination and then go beyond. And like, sure, at points I'm like, we could have gotten even more creative with that. But like for a small budget and like having a movie like this, like I think it does a pretty good job with that. Like, because a lot of it is practically done, and damn, dude, they do a good job of that.
Yeah, I loved this movie. Like at the end when you were sitting there going, I don't think I can sleep, I was sitting there going, I mean, I could probably sleep, but I'm gonna be dreaming about this for sure. Like this was cool. This is the kind of movie that I really enjoy,
You
and
would dream about this?
like
Not nightmares. Dream?
not sorry that sounded wrong, but like it when I would consider, I don't necessarily have nightmares, but I do have dreams that aren't good dreams. Like nothing really scares me in my dreams. So like this could be something that I could see playing in the back of my mind, and sure, I could wake up in a cold sweat, but I wouldn't be like ah. So like when I went to bed, I was definitely thinking about this because there are things I want to do with Lovecraftian cosmic horror stuff. Like I have a whole campaign that I want to kind of build that around. Yes and no, kind of in D&D wise, and like I have the Lovecraft book for D&D, and I literally have a collection of short stories which has color out of space in it, which this I thought was a great adaptation for what turns out to be like 15 pages in a book. They turned into an hour and 50 minutes long, right?
Yeah. Yeah, an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, they turned it an hour and 50-minute long movie. The and I didn't really feel like there was any like extraneous parts that they threw in. Maybe the humor with the animals, like the alpaca humor, might be a complaint where it's out of place. I don't remember there being a squatter on their property in the book. So Ezra, I think, is an added character, but definitely I feel adds a lot of the tension, especially at the end.
Right.
Oh, it's just I enjoyed it, and then how like it affected different animals and people differently was super cool because of how they could comprehend or didn't comprehend it. Um, I kind of wanted to see more of that horse that we got to see. That was a little disappointing, but you know it was fine.
You'll get horses in a movie eventually, you horse girl, you.
Yeah. I mean, I recommend this movie 100%. Dev doesn't. I mean, he does and he doesn't.
Yeah, okay. I never said I don't recommend it. If it, I literally said if it's your kind, if this is the kind of movie you're looking for, watch it. You'd
Yeah.
probably enjoy it. Me, I'm never going to watch this again. Um, because like I don't know. I like my sanity. What little I have left.
Watching this movie, you had to do a sanity check and you failed it.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm like fighting my eyes as we do this podcast because of this movie. Like, let me tell you, dude, it is not easy. Um, Not to say that I'm like my brain is falling asleep or anything like that, because I'm actually very awake.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my eyes are fucking shot right now. Like they keep watering and shit. So like I am having some difficulty. So I might shut them as we talk
Yeah, that's
for a little
fine.
bit.
As long as you don't actually fall asleep.
If I lean back, that's when the problem might start. God
Okay.
damn, do they fucking hurt though right now?
Um, ooh, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of other things to talk about that I. Oh, one other thing I want to talk about is I also like how this movie, because of the tension that it creates, it can make you fear the most mundane things, like the freaking tomatoes. Like
Yep.
we are like, this is the worst case. What's the worst case scenario that could happen with a bunch of tomatoes that are growing in what seems to be an infested field that grow a
Yep.
month early? Like it's yeah,
I
I
mean, the
loved it.
most mundane thing that you could fear in this movie is literally just like time.
Hmm. Which is another thing I love because they don't really explain how much time passes in this movie. They also say that the thing that's affecting them affects the time that they're experiencing. So at least that's how that's affecting them differently. Or where the older son was like, I was walking and then suddenly it was dark outside.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but we didn't get to see that for him, which I was okay with actually. It would make sense that there he's on his own adventure and having his own trip, essentially.
Yup. Yup.
I enjoyed this. I like this morning. I recommended it to my family because they like horror movies too. Like we got to watch this then. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you enjoy horror and stuff, this might be perfect for you. If you're like me and usually like the thing is, I could sit through literally any other horror movie we've watched and been fine. For some reason, this one just triggered something. I don't know what it was. I don't know why it triggered it, but it just did, and then it kept building on it. So,
I mean, and some of it, like some of the stuff, the scares that we got were like they made no sense in the grand scheme of everything, but that's part of the H.P. Lovecraft horror. Like there was a jellyfish at one point, and it was only in the movie for 5 frames, essentially. But still, that 5 frames was kind of creepy.
yup. 100%. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I got really nothing else non-spoilery at the moment, unless you do.
Nope, let's get into it.
Okay, so here's your popcorn, or do I get my popcorn kernels?
You get your popcorn kernels.
So for me, this movie gets a good 8.5 out of 10,
Nice.
almost a 9.
I gave it a 7.5. I think for me,
I can see it, 7.5.
making an 8 overall. So,
I mean, you don't want to give it a lower score, since of how, like, I know it does what it set out to do, but with your
yeah, I mean,
personal, like, your, it
no, I
didn't.
mean, like, I'm able to judge a movie perfectly fine on it being what it aims to be.
I mean, you're allowed to be biased. You're the casual.
I know, but I'm allowed to admit when something does what it sets out to do well.
Okay. Wanted to make sure you weren't just trying to do that because I wanted it to be a higher number, but it's fine.
No. You think I'd ever do that?
I mean, I do that for you sometimes.
Yeah, but I don't break under pressure the moment
Under
my co-host
pressure.
applies a little, like the moment I apply a little bit, be like, "You sure you only want to give it that? I think it's better." You sometimes crumble.
Yeah. Eh.
Also, you're easily coerced into like raising a score by like 0.5
Yeah, half
when
a
you're
point
when
doesn't
you're on the
really mean
fence.
much.
When you're on the fence, and I'm over here being like, if he gives it half a point more, it does get the overall rating a little higher.
Mhm. I mean,
You'll
hell.
notice if it doesn't affect the rating at all, I probably won't fight.
I mean, hell, like the whole thing is we round up most of the time, anyways. So
Yup.
get up there. But yeah, no, 8.5 for me out of this one.
All right.
And then spoilers.
Let's get
Woo,
ready to spoiler.
woo.
Eh.
So yeah, I mean, literally, it's just one night. If you haven't read the short story, what happens is one night, family is minding their own business when a meteor crashes down, and it does. The short story actually doesn't take place from the perspective of the family. It takes place from perspective of like a reporter who is coming in and like inspecting things. It's almost like they turn the reporter role into the hydrologist who's going through and testing the water and all that stuff. And um it's like after the fact where it's like, oh yeah, this meteor struck like a month or so ago, and then he shows up once and things are weird, and then he comes back another time like another month or two later, and then everything's all fucked. So this one we get to see it progress and how things became fucked, and it was great. Like there, I felt like the buildup was a little slow in the beginning, personally, but that's only because all those things that we saw in the beginning really didn't do anything. Like the flowers did nothing but make everything look beautiful, and I guess are technically a little creepy. There was the bug, but the bug just was there. It didn't really do
Yep.
anything. There's the tomatoes, which the tomatoes were also nothing. They were just an excuse for Nick Cage to be more Nick Cage, which was my complaint for this movie. Was it wasn't the right kind of Nick Cage for these moments, at least in the beginning.
Yeah, that's fair.
Once we got to the end, Nick Cage was perfect. So there's that. Um, then just shit breaks out. The ending was basically the same, where just for no reason, suddenly the thing decides that it's done, and it shoots a beam of light into the sky, and then something usually was raising out of it, at least in the book, until it all disappeared. And then the three people that survived, like, never talked about that day again because of how it scarred them in their memories, in their minds.
Understandably.
And this movie does that pretty well, I'd say, especially when it gets to the body horror stuff. Like, it starts talking about Tommy Chong, who plays Ezra. He has a cat, which the cat's name is adorable and stupid all at the same time. Cat named G Spot. Yeah. And then talking about, like, the next time you see him, you might not recognize him. And it's true. That was a jump scare that came out of nowhere. That was just a monster cat right in your face that filled the whole screen.
Yeah, that's arguably the most cheap jump scare a movie has ever done, but it fucking worked.
Yeah.
Like I've never, like, I don't usually jump from a jump scare. That got me to go to yell for a second.
You had quite a few, like, screams, like, which was, I was happy. Like, I know you weren't having a good time, and I wasn't, like, laughing at your expense, but that's literally what I hope for in horror movies, is like the, oh my god, and this is the first movie that's done that in forever.
Yeah. If ever on our show.
Yeah. So it was great. And then, like, the body horror that we did get to see was the cat, which was quick and it was gone in a flash. I honestly couldn't tell you what it looked like. Then there was the jellyfish, which was just, it looked like a breast implant at first. At least that was my thought. Like, what is that? Like a breast implant or something? And then it, like, grew tentacles that went into his hand. And he drops it, of course, and then it goes down the drain, and that's the last we see of that thing. But then slowly all of his skin starts to turn gray and scaly and itchy and whatnot. And but it's later implied that it's doing that because of the alcohol in the ice cubes, because the ice has been infected, and then he's rubbing it on his arm. So it's like, I don't know, but that's the point. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, just, it was good. The sheep, the alpaca, I mean, where it became a mutated hydra was cool. And you called it before it happened, but I was like, no way, they're not gonna do that. They're not gonna fuse them. And then the mom and the younger brother became fused together, and I was like, oh, sweet Jesus. And then the aftermath of what they became, like, later on towards the end of the movie, I was, fuck.
Yep.
Fuck. I actually had, yeah, I had hopes for the daughter this time around. I was like, she might actually, like, survive, maybe, because she's not super mutated, and I guess the wards from the Necronomicon that she put in her skin are actually doing something. But then she gives up and embraces the monster, I guess, and then the monster nukes everything, and end of movie. Which I did like the end too, because, like, he walks out and everything is white for quite a distance, not just, like, still orange or sorry, still purple and pinks and whatnot. It's like all of the color in the area disappeared altogether, and you slowly see it transition back into being forest again. Like, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys should watch. I'm happy with that being our spoiler section.
I'm fine with that as well.
All right, now let's go on. We're moving on to news and wrap up and all that fun stuff. Which, movie news? Woo! Movie news. I didn't really see anything that caught my attention again this week. There was some stuff about some actors joining movies and others leaving movies. Something about Jason Momoa defending Amber Heard. Don't really care about most of that. There's always next month's or next week's movies, which next week Dev already talked about. We're doing Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. Real
Woo!
big change from the last 3 weeks actually. We've had like 3 weeks of horror films or horror element films. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's it. Unless you got
All right.
anything that's caught your attention over the last week.
Nope, not really.
All right. Cool. Yeah, we're done here. Oh, wait, hang on. There was one thing that I saw. So, we are not done here. Every movie is getting like a horror movie remake, essentially.
Oh, this. Yes. Yes.
Yes. So,
Oh my god.
you heard
I got
about
news too.
yeah, there I have Winnie the Pooh's being remade into a horror movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Saw that.
I'm excited to see that. Like I bet it's going to be terrible. It's probably going to draw on like Five Nights at Freddy's horror. But you know, I'm excited to see where it goes.
I have depressing news.
Go for it.
Ray Liotta died.
Really?
Which is shocking to me because he was only 67.
Passed away today.
My entire life I've wanted to be a gangster. That movie, dude, like Goodfellas is etched into my brain.
According to this, he died in the middle of filming a movie right now. He was in the Dominican Republic filming the movie Dangerous Waters, and he passed away in his sleep.
Wow.
Damn, that sucks. I got nothing on that. Like that is depressing news.
I'm sorry to end on that note, but I just literally someone messaged me.
No, it's okay. I was about to say I'm scrolling through my news articles now, and now it's popping up. Now that it's been brought up, I was like, oh, hang on, yeah, this person's dead. It.
I do want to say as a side note, completely different topic, but I do feel like we do have a platform we can use a little bit here. There needs to be change in this fucking country. For fuck's sake. It was barely a week and 3 days between headline breaking, as I said in my tweet, news stories of mass shootings. This needs to fucking stop. For fuck's sake.
Mm. There was last night on MSNBC, one of the reporters, analysts, whatever they are, the big figureheads, was talking about the jargon that he's used, like just the talking points for these mass shootings that are so regular. Like he literally cut together presidential speeches from mass shootings from the last like 20 years, and they all sound the same. They're all the same speech, the exact same words at the same pacing and cadence. And it's literally like it's terrible.
The fact that it happens so frequently that I don't remember all of them.
I mean, we've had
Is
3 in like the
disgusting.
past week, haven't we?
Oh, we've had more mass shootings this year than we've had days in America. But I'm talking about just like school shooting wise. Like the 3 that I remember vividly is the Sandy Hook one, the Parkland one, and now this. But there are many other ones that have been headline breaking that my brain's just blanking on. So like, I don't know. I'm just so tired of it. I've been talking about it, like, and I know, like, some people are like, hey, well, I mean, like, these kind of things are my escape from these things. I'm sorry. I don't think there should be an escape if you're an American right now. I'm sorry, this should be shoved in your fucking face until something changes. Because something has to fucking change.
It really does, yeah. It's just nothing about this is good. And like the only thing that I could maybe think of is that the world has become desensitized, like the US, I mean, has become desensitized to the violence because we see it basically every other day at this point. But that's still not a valid excuse. That should be the exact opposite, where it's like, we see this every other day. Something needs to be fucking done about it.
Yeah.
No. And it's not like it was brought up in MSNBC. It's not like it's just one state or one area or one city. It's literally everywhere. Every state, every city, there's gun violence. So something needs to be done.
And, some people are like, oh, these big cities, they still have gun violence and stuff like that, and they have restricted gun laws. Well, I'm sorry. If you look at Canada and Mexico, where most of the guns that end up doing crime and shit, you don't really get that. America. And you think that, like, if that's happening across country borders, you think state borders are going to stop that shit from happening? I'm sorry. You could buy a gun from Texas and have it delivered to your fucking doorstep on Monday.
Like, and plus too, there was a news article that I read here from like the I forget what our local newspaper's called right now. And it was talking about ghost guns and arrests. And here in California, it had a very inaccurate number. I was kind of disappointed with it. It was one of those like clickbaity headlines, essentially. But it said that here in California, 25 to 50% of the guns taken in crimes are ghost guns, which means they have no serial number and they've been made just randomly by some random person.
Yep.
And like the reason why I hated that number is because it was definitely like they have a database that shows which guns have serial numbers and which ones have been bought from like there's a database of people who owns guns. So they should be able to be like, yeah, it's exactly this amount of ghost guns.
No, there isn't.
Okay. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. There's
a way to track guns if they're manufactured by one of like the major
that's what I meant.
Gun creators. You'll be able to track the serial number to when it was like made and stuff like that. But honestly, once it leaves the retail that you bought it at, there's no tracking that shit. Because it could get sold at 6 different auctions in the next week, and you'd have no idea.
Hell, even like with the ghost gun thing, I told my dad about it, and he's like, yeah, I actually go to the local prison where one of the police officers who works in the prison makes ghost guns. Like, he's blatantly said it. He's like, yeah, I don't make enough money as a corrections officer, so I sell guns on the side.
Well, guess what? That guy might get fucked by the new gun law, which is based off of the Texas abortion law, which I do find kind of petty, but hilarious.
I love it too. Yeah,
it's like it's such a political move, but like you know what? Sure, this is a time when bounty laws can maybe work.
Yeah,
fuck it. Fuck it, why not? It's something. It's fucking something. The fact that the police did fucking nothing during this, like, they are the good guys with the gun in these examples, right? They are supposed to be.
Right?
There was, I think, bullets shot back and forth. A couple officers were hit. But then when the guy got inside the building, and they left him in there for 30 to 40 minutes, I think, before anyone went inside the building.
Wow.
They stopped tackled parents, arrested parents from going in there to save their children. There was a first responder paramedic that found out his fucking daughter died.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Because her best friend, who he didn't know offhand, was talking about how her best friend saved her. Or tried to save them, and that she's dead. And the paramedic asked, "What's her name?" And it was her daughter. It was his daughter. That is not how people should be finding out about this, because this shit shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
Just shouldn't.
That's
It
that.
can't keep happening.
Not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong, and that's the worst fucking part. Like, the problem is it's gonna be a week later, and we're gonna forget about it. It's just the way our fucking zeitgeist moves, and it's because of the way that we've been set up to be just stuck in this goddamn cog in the machine bullshit where we can't you can't organize on any level to like reform these things and change these things because you can't even organize at work
Mhm.
without the fear of you losing everything. So how the fuck are you supposed to organize against a government that just continually lets this happen? Doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Don't get me wrong there. But it is tough to feel like there's any way of changing it since, honestly, since Sandy Hook. Since that happened, that was the point where I think everyone went, okay, so they're just not going to do anything. And they have continually to prove that.
Do you hear about how a bunch of politicians have decided that they're not going to go to the NRA convention that's happening in, I think, a few
Tomorrow?
days or tomorrow? Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're like, it's probably not a good idea to go to this performance now.
Oh, it's not like Greg Abbott, literally an hour or so after he did it, like he was, he went to a fucking fundraising event that the evening of the shooting. You know, I'll make a few bucks that night too, for your campaign. You know, it's only a fucking, tragedy that just happened in one of your cities that, a few, what, like in 2015, you tweeted about, how California was beating you guys on gun sales and stuff like that and how you guys got to pick it up and stuff. That, that totally doesn't influence these kind of things from happening and stuff like that,
Never mind that the first bill passed by Trump was a get guns easier.
Mm-hmm. Fucking hate it here.
Yeah, let's call it.
Andor trailer just dropped, so I'm going to watch that after the show.
Okay. Yeah, go do that. Go like, comment, subscribe.
Do all the things.
Yeah, do all the things with all the stuff. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week for Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick.
I got a need for speed.